Hey guys, welcome back to another video. As you can see, I'm not at home. I am at North Shore Tropicals today. I've actually been coming in a few times over the last few weeks because Lauren is in the full swing of import season, and she's been bringing a lot of really cool plants into Canada, which is really exciting. And I just wanted to kind of help her out because there are a lot of moving parts. She always needs more hands, and it's been fun to kind of just like dig into the imports right when they get here and just spend time with her. So it's been fun, but I know that it's been a busy time for her. So today we were actually planning to film an import Q&A because I just felt like since we have imports here, we got a ton of questions from you guys, that it would be the perfect time to just kind of sit down and talk about it. But honestly, we've both had such an intense last few weeks that we both got here today and you're like, we're not really feeling it. I truly, like, I can't even think about doing another Q&A. I just did one Q&A and it was like 2 hours long. So we're gonna save that for another day where things are not so crazy and we can just kind of hang out, repot, and get through the questions without feeling so stressed. But I do still have a good video for you today, hopefully. So the whole back area of the warehouse is filled with imports, but I picked a few. I think I have 8 here, 7 or 8 that I want to show you guys that I thought were really exciting. This was just from her recent import that she got yesterday. So what I'll do is just kind of show you who they are. I'm going to do like the whole import process and just kind of show you what to expect when you get imports. And her process is a little bit different than mine, so I obviously know what that process is, and I'm gonna just show you what it is and take you through the whole thing. And yes, hopefully if you are importing for the first time this year, that this video helps you out a little bit. And yeah, we can just like sit down for the next hour or so and look at cool plants, and it should be a good time, hopefully. So I think I'm gonna start with, I have some very small plants and I have some very large plants. So I think I'm gonna go smallest to largest. Also, by the way, there are people here obviously at the shop, and this chair is very squeaky. There are people here in the shop, so you might hear a little bit of like muffled talking. So just keep that in mind. Anyway, this is a Anthurium laciniatum, and the texture of this is so freaking beautiful. Like, this is a plant that I definitely feel like I would love to have in my collection, but I'm just not quite sure I can see myself super loving it over like a long period of time like I do like a lot of my other Anthurium and Philodendrons. I feel like I'm in a place right now where I'm able to gauge like, okay, this chair is squeaking. I think I need a new chair. Hopefully this chair doesn't squeak. I am wearing shorts. So I feel like I'm in a place now where I kind of understand plants that I see and I'm like, oh, that's so beautiful, I love it, versus the ones where I'm like, it's so beautiful, I love it, I have to have it, and I can see myself loving it for a long time. For me, this is not one of them, but if you are into the really dark textural Anthurium, this one is for you. I don't really know much about their care and like their tendencies. I've kind of heard that this one can be a little bit more finicky. It requires more humidity, more warmth, or not more warmth, higher humidity and cooler temperatures is what I've heard. I have no idea. I have no experience in it, but I will say that this one imported pretty well. It's still really firm. It's got a lot of moisture still in the leaves. And if you're wondering about this texture, so it's pretty thick. It's quite a thick leafed plant. The way it feels is very like matte and almost leathery. And it just, yeah, it has a beautiful texture. It's almost like the luxurians with just tighter pebbles and not such like a smooth, sort of shiny surface. So I'm trying to give you like the best description if you like want to know what it feels like. The back feels pretty incredible too. It reminds me of the back of like a veitchii leaf almost, whereas where the like, venation just is like pretty rigid and like sharp, not as pronounced as the veitchii, but like pretty similar, pretty close. So yeah, this one is really fun. The leaves are dark and just like so sultry. I'm sure this would photograph beautifully, and it's pretty exciting to actually see one in such good condition in person, because all the other ones that I've seen, honestly, at like shows, they've all looked really like terrible. So this one will require a good amount of acclimatization before it's ready to go to its new home. But an exciting, not acquisition for me, but an exciting import nonetheless. Here's one that I'm sure you guys are all familiar with. This is the Anthurium luxurians dark. This is what Gilberto is calling it. I don't know what the difference is between a regular Lux and this one, because this looks to me exactly like a regular Lux. But the leaf shape of this one is quite interesting. It's got like this really like spade sort of shape rather than that like round kind of heart-shaped luxurians that you see pretty often. It's been cool to kind of see all the variations in specimens. There's some with like, you know, the super silvery leaf, and there's ones that are just like really round. I've seen the luxurians where it's got like a really tight sinus and it's almost like a cup, like a dorayaki. And then you've got some like this where it's like, yeah, a spade shape, or there's some with like a really wide sinus. Lauren lives in like, or she works in like an industrial area of North Van, so there's a lot of trucks that go by. But anyway, yeah, this one has like a really, really cool shape. She did import a few luxurians, but I thought this one was like the coolest one out of all of them. So if you happen to see this one on the website in a few weeks or a few months, I would say get it. It's amazing. And yeah, it is very dark. I mean, I can understand why it's called the luxurians dark, but I don't know, what's the difference between dark and just like a regular Lux? Don't know. I think this one is smaller than that one. I can't really tell. They're about the same size. This one is an Anthurium forgetii dark. I have a love for the forgetii that I can't quite explain. I feel like this is an Anthurium that's just like commonly overlooked, not really loved on. I'm noticing that like at these pop-ups that Lauren does, or like when they do restocks, none of the really cute forgetii get sold. Like nobody just, I don't know. I guess because there are so many cool Anthurium floating around, you know, it's like, yeah, I guess these are easier to get, but not all forgetii are created equal. I feel like some just have really, really cool distinct features that like you gotta collect them all. They're like Pokemon, you know, especially if they flower and you're into like hybridizing Anthurium. It's cool if you can isolate like a certain trait of one with another trait of another one that you really like. So I thought this one would be a really cool one. It looks just like a little turtle. It's got a really like nice long sharp leaf. Look at the forehead. His forehead is so perfect. So yeah, I do love this form of forgetii with the silver. I will say that my favorite is the one with the non-silver venation, but I do still enjoy one with the silver venation. I think it's really, really adorable. This one specifically has such a cute little growth pattern. It's all just like, you know, in all its glory. So yeah, great import, this one. I actually find that forgetii import pretty well. So if you're looking for an Anthurium for the first time to import, I highly recommend forgetii, crystallinum. The Lux actually imports pretty well too. Like all her Lux looks really great. So yeah, I would recommend those three if you're looking for a first time import that's not super finicky. Like I would not suggest importing a lapoenum if this is your first time importing, you have no experience importing. Don't do that one. Okay, this next one is, it made my jaw drop. So this is an Anthurium crystallinum silver special. Who the heck knows what that means, but she is special. It reminds me very much of the venation of like a Anthurium crystal red crystal. Just really, really bright, really thick, and just like bleeds very subtly into the rest of the leaf. It's got venation that goes like all the way to the edge of the leaf margins. The venation on that midrib is really, really thick as well. And just overall, this looks insane. I think Alice just picked up one of these too from Lauren in her last import, and for good reason. Me and Alice just have this love for the crystallinum that, you know, we share, which is really special. So when there comes a time to import or like to acquire another crystal that like has really distinct features, kind of like what I was saying with the forgetii, we will jump on it. So I would love to get one of these, but I'm kind of banking that later down the line Alice will have a cutting that you know, I can buy from her. But yeah, this one is so nice, and she did import quite a few. So if you're looking for an acclimatized crystal silver special, keep an eye out for Lauren's website when she restocks. And also she's got a live sale coming up on this day. I should put this video up before the live sale then. This was actually gonna go up after the live sale. Crap. But me and Alice will be working at the live sale. We're gonna be your showgirls. We're gonna be like this on live, and you know, like the Wheel of Fortune girls. Yeah, this one's really, really fun. I hope to get one of these in the future. It does look pretty similar to the crystal black. I will just say that the leaf, I don't know if it's all like this, but the leaf texture is a slightly different than the crystal black. I don't know if you can tell, but it's got like this like really blate texture to the leaf. It's not flat like the crystal black or like the crystallinum. It's like pebbly, like very slightly pebbly. And then even the abaxials of them, you can see more of that texture. My crystal black and my crystallinum is not like this. So I do really, really enjoy the that subtle texture of this leaf versus the other ones. And the leaf it feels slightly thinner than my crystal black, not gonna lie, but it's more leathery. I'm trying to get better at my descriptions of plants, but I feel like I'm not really making any progress. The next two I'm going to show you are kind of the same size. So I have actually never seen a peltigerum this large before. Look at it. It's bigger than my head. Well, I have a big head, but it's bigger than my head. I think the largest peltigerum I've seen is probably like this size. So this is insane. The reason I don't own a peltigerum is just I do like the way it looks. I think it's really interesting. I'm not going to sit here and say it's the most amazing Anthurium, but the texture of it is amazing. It's so thick. This is a thick leaf. I think it has a fun shape. It's like a forgetii, just with no venation, and it's kind of had a reputation of being a more finicky plant, I will say. If you're growing it in conditions like ours, especially if you're in Canada, I think Alice, she had a hard time ever even growing one leaf on hers. But I don't know if it's like all the specimens that are coming out recently, but I feel like more and more people are having success growing the pelti. So like this one is huge. I can't even imagine what the next leaf is gonna look like. I mean, hopefully it doesn't, you know, kind of revert now that it's a new import and it's gonna go through like a significant amount of shock, but it's still a great size. And I like the leaf color of it. This one didn't quite harden off as dark as the rest of them, but peltigerums are usually this color. And it has like a really, really nice sort of, I don't know, not silky sheen, but what's the word I'm thinking of? Like a satiny sheen? I need to start like researching descriptions so that I'm able to give you guys more accurate, you know, words to describe the way it feels. But anyway, yeah, it's got a beautiful color. It has a beautiful shape, has a beautiful sheen to it. And I do love this little, you know, this little area here. It's really cute. So if you are into the pelti, Lauren will have some soon. My jaw dropped when I walked in the shop and I saw this. These Anthurium veitchii super narrows, this one specifically is called super narrow chocolate. I don't know what the chocolate is all about. I feel like it's the whole thing with like the serpent's chocolate and the regular serpents, which they're like identical. But yeah, this is the Anthurium veitchii super narrow chocolate. And guys, if I ever get a leaf this large on my super narrow, I would be the happiest guy alive. Like, I can't even tell you how happy I would be to see this. To me, this long, sultry leaf is more satisfying than a queen. I'm just gonna say it. I don't know if it's because like the queen has just been so like, I'm not gonna say outplayed or like overplayed or like overhyped. I think I just have like a bad taste of the queen in my mouth, and the veitchii has been so much easier than the queen has ever been for me. So yeah, right now I'm just like putting all my energy and all my love and focus into my veitchii super narrow. with the hopes that one day it gets anywhere this size. I would be so happy. It's still hardening off. It's still really, really floppy. I do think it's probably gonna grow just slightly, maybe like it'll expand a little bit longer, maybe a little bit wider. I'm not quite sure, but I do think it's gonna get a little bit longer. This last leaf is, I wanna say about the same size as this one is right now, but I think this one, once fully hardened, is going to be larger than this one. But man, it's so beautiful. The veitchii is definitely a plant where I'm not, it's more so that I enjoy the veitchii as a single leaf. I don't know why. It's just one of those plants where, like, if it was just always one leaf, I wouldn't mind, you know? It just is so, like, beautiful, and obviously it's easier to, like, to have in your house without like 10 million of these large leaves in there. I probably would feel different if there was like multiple of these long leaves kind of all facing forward rather than sort of growing at these weird wonky angles. But like, if I could just have one leaf like this at all times, I would be so smitten. Okay, I'm pretty sure this is bigger than the last plant I'm gonna show you now that I'm actually holding it and looking at it. This is multiple plants. One, two, there are three. It looks like there's 4 plants in this one little baggie, but look at these patty leaves. They're so beautiful. Oh my gosh, I just love a good long patriciae leaf. They're probably at the longest, maybe 2 feet long. The longest one, 2 feet long. Yeah, this one is delicious and delightful. I don't really have anything else to say about it. Sorry, the lighting is going crazy. I keep moving it around. This is a plant that I feel like is just a must in everyone's collection. If you are into like any kind of strap leaf, pendant leaf, anything Philodendron, Anthurium, this is, yeah, a great plant to own. I haven't had like the most amazing luck with sizing it up in, you know, what I would think a reasonable amount of time is. I feel like when you're working with a really small plant, it's harder to, you know, get these big long leaves if you're not growing it like in a tent or something. So yeah, these plants are great to start with if you want kind of a head start, because these caterpillars they're big, they're long boys. So I think with this one, there's like kind of, I don't know what this is. I'm not sure, but I do want to get these leaves sort of like washed and cleaned up a little bit, just because they're a little bit crusty looking, but still really, really magical. And I should do another Ariana.
Ariana, what are you doing here?
That's for you, Glory Wholesome. Okay, so anywho, this is the patriciae. I'll be able to show you the individual ones once we get it unwrapped, but it looks really, really cool as a single plant altogether. Last but not least is this Anthurium regale. I have never really been a regale person, and I don't know why, because now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, why don't I have a regale? It's so beautiful and magical. I'm just imagining seeing like a big leaf like this on my shelf that would probably inevitably die from spider mites, so I would not subject it to that kind of torture. But I'm saying, if you had a plant shelf like mine and you don't live in a pesty place, I would love seeing this in my living room every day. My freaking goodness. This petiole is like 5 million miles long, and she's thick. I cannot bend this at all. And it's got some nice roots growing inside of the plastic, which is great. This chunk is huge. She's girthy. She's like this. So I'm kind of anxious to see what's going on in this moss, but man, this leaf is beautiful. It shipped so well. There's like hardly any cosmetic damage, no yellowing, nothing. It's pristine. This is like the token regale. She's that girl. So those are all the plants that I'm going to be repotting today. It was kind of hard to sort of pick who I was going to show you because there's so many so many cool imports that she's gotten in lately, but I wanted to give you a good mix. She did import mostly Anthurium this time, which is why I only have one philodendron to show you. I'm going to get set up. We're gonna unpot everything, and then I will show you what the next step is. So I'm gonna start with the Anthurium luxurians dark, and they are shipped in moss. I do like, one thing I really like about shopping with tropicals plants is how much effort and care they put into their packaging. So they've been packaging them in actual pots, and I've just found that all of the imports have done so much better. It's a hit or miss with how much humidity or how much moisture will actually be in the moss. Like you can see that it's pretty dry, but I can still feel a bit of moisture, just enough to, you know, keep the roots healthy long enough to get here, because if it has too much moisture, then it can rot it. So they've got to be kind of careful about how much water they're adding to the moss. The moss that it comes in is very, very finely chopped. I enjoy using this kind of moss for moss pulls because it's a lot easier to remove once you're actually gonna remove it from the pole. So the same concept with this. It's like you guys saw how easily it sort of just fell right off. Even when you have like a really rooted plant in moss that's chopped up like this, it's so much easier to get off than moss that has long fibers. So here's what we're working with. Oh, sorry, the lighting. The roots are not bad. I tend to not really like these little secondary roots. I will more than likely remove all of them because over time they just kind of become string. And even if they don't die right away, you'll notice that once it starts acclimatizing, a lot of these small ones will die and then new ones will form out of the primary root. So Lauren tends to remove the secondary roots as well. So that's probably what I'm gonna do today, is just keep these really big, chunky, delicious ones, and then remove all these secondary ones that will just end up rotting in the substrate. This chunk size looks good. It doesn't look quite choppable to me yet. You can kind of see that there's where this new growth, this is where the plant grew out of, this chunk here, and it has its own little stem. But it's not long enough that I would feel like it needs to be chopped. So I'm gonna leave that one as it is. Look how easily it just falls right off. It's so nice. This one kind of feels like it's got a big chunk. Okay, it's not huge, but it is long. I feel like Lauren would not mind chopping this, but it's still, to me, not quite long enough to chop. So I'm gonna leave this as it is, but you can see this one has a bunch of secondary roots that I'm probably going to remove. And it has a good amount of these big primary ones that will really get the plant going. And then the laciniatum. I think these roots are much skinnier. This one's got a long stem, so I think this is one that I would consider chopping, and I probably will. So it's got a stem. This is how long the stem is. She does not necessarily need a stem this long in her pot when acclimatizing. So yeah, I'm gonna chop this guy down. The roots actually look really good. I'm happy with it. I can actually see some new roots that have grown in the moss. Sorry if the lighting is terrible, but yeah, I'm happy with the way that looks. Hopefully this one acclimatizes well. And then the last one I'll do in this little batch is the Crystal Silver Special. I love crystallinum roots because they're like red and pink and they're so cute. Oh my gosh, look, it still has its like most tiny little leaf on it. So the stem on this one is not super long, not long at all. So this one will not be chopped whatsoever. But we do need to do a little bit of trunk cleaning if she can find her scraper. Lauren does clean her trunks as well. It's so cute when I see her in the corner. She's listening to her little true crime podcast and she's just scraping away. She's so cute. I've got Lauren's chunk scraper. Why aren't we focusing? Okay, so I've got her chunk scraper. Got scissors and I think we can get started. So I'm gonna start by just removing any roots that look not great, but honestly, I'm kind of happy with the way this looks, and I'm almost inclined to just even leave some of these secondary roots. I'm not even really mad at them, but I do want to just get it cleaned up as much as possible, so I'll remove any sheath. Wait a second, this is its own little plant. That's so cute. It wasn't the first leaf, it's an offshoot. Okay, we're gonna separate you. How stinking adorable. Well, that was really cute. Loved that part of my day. Okay, so this one actually looks pretty okay. Chonk looks somewhat clean. I just kind of want to remove maybe like any of this black stuff that I see here. I'm not gonna do too much because it actually looks really good. This one could use a bit more cleaning, so removing any sheath. And just keep in mind, it's totally not necessary to remove these old sheaths and old leaves and things like that. That's just kind of what I like to do. I know Lauren likes to do it too, so we just all have our own way. This is just giving you an idea of one person's way of importing. Some people literally just get the import, they shake the moss off, they plop it into some soil and call it a day, and it works swimmingly. But I don't know, I find that like a part of this hobby for me, like in terms of the enjoyment, is like just kind of pampering it in a way that it wouldn't get in its, you know, native habitat or whatever. Now, whether the plant actually enjoys it or not is another question. But you know what? This, I think, a reminder is that this hobby truly is for the enjoyment of the people and not so much the plants, unfortunately. Unfortunately for them. Okay, so in terms of the roots, see, I don't like roots like this. Like this looks really just not great to me. So I'm gonna just start cleaning all of these secondary roots off of the plant. So this is what it looks like now without all of these little secondary roots that, to me, 99.9% of the time will end up just dying anyway. So I'd like to just get the healthiest roots in there to avoid any sort of dead, mushy roots that are living alongside the new ones coming in. So this one is done. That's pretty much what I'm gonna do to pretty much all of the Anthurium that I'm unpotting today. There's not so many on the Lux, it's mostly primary, so not as much of a severe root trimming as the other one, but still a little bit to do. There's also some old leaves here, which I can just remove. So this right here is an old petiole. And the reason I like to remove it is because if you have a substrate that's actually like really wet and damp, a lot of the times this just turns into mush and it just makes things a little bit gunky in your medium. And if I can avoid that, I will try. So yeah, I'm just gonna try and remove as much of this black part as possible. for this lapoenum, I'm going to chop a part of this stem. So I've got roots up here, which I would like to keep on the plant if possible, but I do think I can chop right about here. I've got this little chonkaroni down here. This root looks broken, so I'm gonna remove this whole thing. We've got this top cut, which still has a really, really good size stem. You can see it can probably even be chopped more, but I'm not going to risk removing any more of these roots just because it's a lapoenum and I don't want to put it in a more precarious position. So I'm just going to give these leaves a wash down really quick, and then we will get right into potting. So we are washed down now, and I just want to give them a little bit of a wipe down. One thing about these really, really pebbly leaf plants is that when you do get gunk and debris in it, it's kind of hard to get it out. Like right now I'm having trouble getting some soil out of this sinus. I do find though that using a paintbrush helps, because it really, the little hairs and bristles get in between all the pebbles and you can get it really nice and clean. But obviously I don't have my kit here. I should have a traveling plant care kit. Like a traveling nurse, you know? I feel like all of us should have one of those around so that like whenever we go places, friends' houses, restaurant, wherever, we're just always ready to like rescue a plant. I'm not gonna worry too much about getting the leaves really nice and clean because she is likely going to be pest treating. I'm not quite sure what her go-to product is right now, because with things like spider mites, you have to keep switching up your product or else they get used to it and they're like, we don't care. We eat that stuff like a snack. And that, I feel like that's what my spider mites are doing at the moment. They're definitely taunting me. All of the stuff I'm giving it, it's not phasing them. It's like in certain areas of my house, the spider mite situation has gotten better, and then in other places, it's almost like it's gotten worse, which is really annoying. A plant like my Philodendron gloriosum, that one I'm so good at washing down now. I've even moved it to a place where it's easier for me to just like move it into the bathroom weekly. Doesn't matter. They just come right back. I've even repotted it. All right. Let's start with this little seedling because she's so tiny. I don't want the roots to dry out. So here is the mix that Lauren uses. I will throw up what is in this mix, but off the top of my head, cocoa chips, perlite, not coarse. It's like a fine grade perlite, unsifted, fir bark or orchid bark, a little bit of soil, I think, and worm castings. So pretty simple, nothing that you have not used before. And she's really been moving away from using moss as a rooting or an acclimation substrate. She's still using moss for some plants, but I'm seeing the trend that she's really starting to use more soil now. Oh my gosh, I'm recording a time lapse. I just realized my coffee mug was covering the camera. So for this little one, I'm gonna opt for this tiny 2-inch pot with drainage holes. Where's my scooper? Hopefully this little guy is gonna be okay acclimatizing in this mix because the root system is so small and it's such a juvenile plant. But I have faith. It's got a good root system. It's got a pretty like decent sized stem for the size of the plant. So I'm gonna try to not get as many like big pieces of bark in here. I really want to use more of a fine grade mix. So I'll do mostly the soil, perlite. Oh no, I need to take my ibuprofen. I started my period yesterday and the day 2 headache has arrived. She's here. I didn't have any symptoms yesterday and then I woke up today feeling like a beached whale. I was like, this is perfect. And then I'm filming with Alice tomorrow, so that's just great. I'm not here for a full day, so I really gotta get moving. This size root system, this one's gonna need a cup. Perfect. I just love import season so much. There's just something about it, and I don't know. Okay, these are just thoughts while we repot. So lately, and I don't know what it is, I don't know if it's because like my niece is in this sort of leap year with just her growth and maturity, and I've just been missing her so much. I've been missing my nephew so much. I've been missing my mom and my sisters too, dad. Hi dad, sorry. I've just been really, really homesick. And the thing is I love my life here. I love my life here so much that it's like, even if someone was like, tomorrow, like, would you, if you had the opportunity and, you know, Vince could make what he's making here, and he liked his job, and you could move to California, would you? And it's like, here's the thing, I normally would have like jumped up and just been like, yeah, like I want to move back, but I do like my life here. I like being so close to the mountains. I love all of the outdoorsy things that are here, and like the scenery is just so different than California. California is beautiful, but like you have to drive a little bit of ways to kind of be like, you know, in the mountains and whatever. Whereas like here, like a 20-minute drive, I can be in the mountains and it's just beautiful. I like the culture, I think, out here more. The people are nicer, free healthcare. I like the weather better. There's a lot of things that I've really enjoyed about living in Canada, but there are times where, and I've been feeling this lately, I feel like it sort of ebbs and flows, where I just want to be back. I just want to be back in California, and part of me, you know, kind of feels guilty sometimes because, you know, when me and Vince got into this relationship, you know, I agreed that like that I would be okay with that, moving to Canada and stuff, but I guess I could have never predicted how hard it would have been, because back when we first started dating, I was 23, and at that age, I was a bit more adventurous, and I was always like looking for change, and I was a different person when I was 23. So of course, like the thought of like moving to a different country with like my dream guy was just, yeah, it was literally a dream. But now as I'm older and like I'm in this like new chapter of my life, I have a niece and nephew now, there's this huge part of me that's just like, I want to be back home, and I want to see my family more, and I don't know, I just have days where I just want to be back. But then, yeah, I was like thinking recently, like the life that I have here is like so great, you know, like I'm in a hobby that has truly changed my life. I've met people within this hobby that have changed my life, made friendships that have changed my life. I'm super close to like a shop owner who's like right in the thick of just doing something that makes me really happy, and I get to be a part of it too, which I don't think is an opportunity that a lot of people get, and I definitely do not take that for granted. So yeah, I've just been trying to be more appreciative of the things that like I wouldn't have in California. I definitely would not have, I don't think, anything close to what I have here over there, and I don't know. Oh my god, all the sounds here are freaking me out. But it really is like, it's a thing that I'm like constantly struggling with, because of course, you know, days like this where I am just so like grateful to be here, I know that I would not have days like this in California, but the homesickness has been pretty bad lately. Not gonna lie to you, there's some days where I just wish that I could like, I don't know, live in California like half the year. But then like what would happen with my plants, you guys? Because I could film and edit from California. In theory, I could like live there half the year, but one, I don't think that would be fair for Vince, because then obviously I would want to have Pudge with me, and I don't want to take Pudge away from him. I know that would affect him a lot because even when we just like go to like the grocery store and we're away from Pudge for like an hour, we're like, we gotta get home, like I miss him so much. And yeah, I think I definitely get worse separation anxiety from Pudge than he does from me. Even if we're home together, he has days, typically he will go into every room that I'm in, you know, like he'll want to be in that same room. But he has days where he's like, wow, I'm just like jumping around thoughts, you guys. I was like, oh, I love import season, and I'm talking about my family, now I'm talking about Pudge. Anyway, yeah, he has days where he's like super independent and will just like be in the bedroom on his own or like be in the living room on his own for like hours and hours, and like he won't be in the same room as me, which is not really like him. And I'll miss him. I'll be like butthurt, like why are you so far out? Why are you so far from me? Are we fighting? What's going on? And even now, just being away from him, I'm like, I want to go home. So yeah, all that to say, I don't think it would be fair for me to live in California half the year, just because it would disrupt Vince's life so much. He would be really sad. I know he wouldn't be opposed to it. I think he'd be really, really sad. Oh my God, that sound. He'd be really sad, but I don't think this is just my guess, I don't think that he would be like, no, you can't do it. I think maybe he might convince me to like not stay as long. But it would be nice, I guess, to stay longer periods, but still sort of like be able to work and do things that I do normally, like film and edit there. Because when I'm in California, like I don't bring anything with me. I mean, I do bring my camera obviously to film, but like I don't edit, I don't get any work done really. So my whole life is just on pause when I'm there. So being away for 2.5 weeks is kind of like my max at this point in terms of being able to afford being away for that long, because I do have to like work. If I don't make videos and if I don't work for my business, I will not be able to pay my bills. So anyway, just some current thoughts. I didn't even tell you guys, but yeah, these two are in these big cups. We're not doing any drainage holes just yet. She wants to contain a little bit more of that moisture off the bat. She wants to contain some of that moisture in the first few weeks, and then she will probably eventually cut some drainage holes. I think that this one can fit in a cup. Nope, I lied. I lied to you. I blatantly lied to you. I think I'm gonna chop off a little tail of this because the stem is a little long and awkward. Why do I keep losing my stuff? I thought I was almost done. I forgot I have all the big plants to do. Oh my gosh, I need to speed things up. We gotta go quickly. I got a good amount of import questions in, so maybe while we're sitting here, I'll just answer a few of them. So here's one. When do you put imports into their permanent substrates? So I often refer to new roots on an import as acclimatized roots, because those roots, that root system has acclimatized essentially to the vessel that it's in. So just depending on what kind of substrate you have it in, like if you're rooting just in water, I guess, and you have a bunch of new roots coming out, I don't typically like to allow water roots to get too long, but I'm not really acclimatizing in water anymore. And I think that's because I'm more comfortable with these plants. I'm more comfortable with acclimatizing in general, that the water thing, it's not so necessary for me anymore, just because I have more of the hang of it. But I do recommend water acclimatization if you are kind of just getting started. I know that there's a good amount of people that advise against acclimatizing in water, but I'm going to be the first to say to give it a try because it's worked so well for me in the very beginning. But anyway, assuming that you're not acclimatizing in water, usually I'll wait until the roots get not root bound, but you can see a good healthy amount of new roots that are in that vessel. That's when I would move it to a new or its permanent substrate. But you also want to like let the leaves talk to you. If the roots have been good, but you're noticing like a lot of leaf loss, or you could tell like the transition isn't going that smoothly, I would maybe advise against doing anything more to it as it gets established. There's no harm really in allowing an import to get super root bound into its medium. Moss is the only one that I'll say to, proceed with caution, just because it's really, really hard to untangle moss when it's really, really root bound. So on an import plant, when you're dealing with these brand new delicate roots, you want to obviously repot it with the least amount of stress and shock possible. So if you can avoid snapping roots off and stuff like that, that's going to be your best bet. But I really wouldn't treat it as, in terms of just repotting it, I think that was the question. It's just once you see a nice healthy root system, kind of similar to any other plant that's not an import, you can look at a plant and be like, okay, that's ready for a new pot. I would say the same rings true for an import. This building makes a lot of sounds that I'm not used to, and it's freaking me out. When do you feel comfortable moving your imports away from their controlled environment? This is a good question. So typically, I will not move a new import unless, one, I can see that it's grown a healthy amount of acclimatized roots and it has pushed out a new leaf. I know sometimes that can take a long time, but once it pushes out a new leaf, I kind of feel like that's, it's showing it's alive, it's healthy, it's not really acclimatizing anymore, and now it's just growing. And I don't want the plant to get too used to that like bin or like 100% humidity environment. I want to, because I'm growing a lot of my plants in general, not just my Anthurium, I'm growing a lot of my plants out in sort of non-controlled, but non-greenhouse environments. And so I don't want it to get too used to that. I want to make the transition a little easier. So I'll wait until I see a new leaf coming, and then I'll usually move it out of that bin, but not completely. I'll sometimes just remove the lid or prop the lid, not so that it's closed, but like, prop it sideways so that like there's some air coming in and out. And you want to just do like a slow transition. You wouldn't want to go from bin straight to like your living room right away. You want to just do like that slow progression of lower temps and lower humidity and not shock it right away. So yeah, I typically will just wait until new roots, like a good amount of new roots have formed and a new leaf. How do I get moss rooted plants to like soil the roots keep rotting? That's interesting. I actually find that moss to soil is like usually the easiest transfer for me, but I guess it depends on a lot of things. It depends on like the mix that you're using, and it depends on like the environment you're giving it. It depends on how healthy your root system is. And this is, I'd say, one thing that has differed a lot from like the first import video that I've ever done, but I really recommend using mycorrhizal inoculants if you're not already using it. So I just had a conversation with someone the other day on Instagram, and they were telling me how, they've imported a ton before, and when they go to transition the plant, they just have killed so many plants during that transition. And he couldn't figure it out, and it wasn't until he watched my channel and was introduced to mycorrhizal inoculants, and he started using myco basically as soon as that plant came in and put it into his rooting substrate or his acclimatization substrate. And once he transferred it to the permanent substrate, it's like he's done nothing differently, and everything has just acclimatized so well, and he's not dealing with the rotting anymore. And the only thing that was different is the fact that he was using mycorrhizal inoculant. So myco is not just for rooting. There are some people who are like, why can't you just use rooting hormone instead of myco? It's cheaper. But myco is a totally different thing than rooting hormone. Where do I talk about myco? Alice needs to do a freaking myco video already so I can just direct everyone her way. But it's completely different than rooting hormone, and it just makes your plant stronger, it makes it more robust, it makes it more creates more defenses to pests, and just makes it more resilient in general. And honestly, ever since I started using mycorrhizal inoculants, I find that I'm not dealing with a lot of rotting plants anymore. Rot used to be like my nemesis when I was dealing with imports, and now I just don't really have that issue. And to me, the least common denominator is myco, because I'm still doing the same thing. No drainage, I'm using the same substrates, and yeah, give myco a try if you're not already using it. But if you are using myco and you're still finding that you're rotting your roots, I think that maybe one, if you are moving it to soil, make sure that you are moving it to maybe a brighter location for the first few weeks as it's getting established, just so that it's, you know, photosynthesizing as much as possible, and it's getting all of like the energy and the food that it needs. And two, watch your watering. I feel like some people think that moving a plant from moss to soil means that like you shouldn't water, or you should water very little. And to me, that's not really true. I water basically my moss and my soil plants just the same. So make sure that when you are transitioning it, you can water right away. I feel like there's a good amount of people who advise against not watering right away, and then people who say water right as soon as you repot it, and I'm more on that side. Unless I've just like chopped it or something, I'll allow it to callus for a couple hours and then I'll water it. But typically, if I'm going from moss to soil, I am not going to allow that soil to stay dry for more than a few hours. So let's take a pause on the import questions. These first few are done. I'm just going to prepare some myco water and get them watered. I've been at this for way too long, you guys. This was supposed to be a 30-minute video. Now it's gonna be like an hour and a half, I bet. I'm so annoying. Why do I always do this? This is why I live behind either this camera or the computer. Okay, so let's water this guy. So the myco that Lauren uses is Great White. That's what I've been using lately because it's all that I have. So this is as much water as I'm adding. You can see I just added enough to saturate the soil. And if you look at the bottom, there is a little bit here, but that's because it's going to wick it back up because it's not going to be evenly distributed right away. So yeah, that's pretty much my rule of thumb when watering these new imports. I'm not gonna ever let the substrate be completely dry. I just find that that's a recipe for dry rot, and you do want to give the plants a bit of moisture since it's been, plucked from where it grew and it's now living in a place with much less humidity and warmth. Well, maybe not warmth, it's pretty warm here in her shop. And then I'm gonna stick this little guy in here because it has drainage holes, but I want to water it. I'm gonna work on this super narrow next. Hoping you've got, oh, these roots don't look great. This chunk is so huge. These roots are black. Don't like that. Don't like it at all. But this chunk is such, oh my god, this is like the ideal chunk to scrape. Ooh, okay. So how about we unpot a few of them so that I don't have to keep changing the angle 5 million bajillion times. So I'll unpot that, and I'll unpot maybe the peltigerum. Oh, mushy. Mushy. Yeah, these ones need a good chunk cleaning. Oh, I'm excited. So this leaf is already sort of dying off, so I'm just gonna remove it. And this one's gonna need a pretty good root trimming. This looks pretty bad. This regale is so heavy. You guys, this chunk, I cannot wait to show you the chunk size on this puppy. She's a beast. Lauren, you need new scissors, friend. Oh my gosh. Holy motherload of chunk. You guys, what the freaking, I don't think I've ever seen a chunk this huge. What on earth? You guys, this is like a, it's like a potato. It's like a fat chunky potato. Oh my gosh. Look, I can't even wrap my hand around it. That's what she said. This is intense. We had a good laugh back there. So I'm gonna move you guys closer so we can do all the good stuff. I may have to break this up into 2 videos. Should I? Nah. Okay, so let's work on this massive chonkaroni first since I'm gonna do a chop. So I'm gonna try and keep this root system up on the top because it's got some good primary roots. I'm gonna probably remove a good amount of the secondary roots, but it's got good bones. So I wanna keep this up here, as well as these nice new roots that have come in. So it's gonna be hard for me to chop this, but I'm gonna try. I really am. I need to just chop it like right here, and this is the largest shear she has. So this is gonna be a journey for sure. You guys, this is too big. The girth is too big. Size matters to a certain extent. This is too much size, okay? Keep that in mind. All right. We're just gonna be slicing away here. You know, if I was at home, we would be here with my butcher knife and I'd just be slicing this thing like a Thanksgiving dinner. Oh my gosh, I don't want to ruin this leaf. We're gonna have to do several incisions here without me chopping a finger off, preferably. Oh my gosh. It's not gonna be a clean cut. It's gonna be really messy. Oh my gosh. It's so meaty. It's got so much meat to it, like a coconut. Okay, we're getting somewhere. There we go. Whew. Okay, there's the bottom chunk. And here's the top. I'm gonna allow this to callus up just a little bit, so we're gonna clean this guy up a bit. Okay, most of this is just algae, so I'm gonna leave it. I don't want to touch this plant more than I need to because the roots are so delicate. So let's just move on to the next one, which is this veitchii that has not so great roots. So all of these are just dead and mushy. So I'm gonna do a significant amount of root trimming here. I'm gonna let this soak in a little bit of water for a little bit to soften it, and then I'm gonna do a second clean, but not too much. It's pretty much done now. Now the fun part. Well, that was actually quite fun. So I'm going to use this really large one for the regale just because she's heavy still. And this is a good example of what I was talking about in terms of like watering right after, what was I talking about? I was talking about watering right after a repot and stuff. Because there's so much fleshy tissue that is exposed to the world now, I'm not gonna water this one right away. I will probably water it when I leave, which is in about an hour and a half. But this reminds me of the one time that I got a massive chunk. It was an El Choco. Oh, you know what? I need to root trim. It was an El Choco. The chunk was maybe half this size, but it was still pretty girthy. Like, she had some size to her, and there was a grub in it. And I chopped into the chunk, and the grub just got sliced in half. And it was so juicy. It was, oh, it was so terrifying. That was trauma. I was freaking out. So basically, anytime now that I chop into a big chonkaroni like this, I'm just like holding my breath. Please don't let there be a grub in it. And I was like confused because I'm like, how did it get in here? Like, I couldn't see a way that a grub would have gotten inside it. And then I realized at the very bottom there was this tiny hole. So it probably went in there when it was like small. And then it just grew inside this grub, and it was just like chewing its way through the chunk, because the chunk was long. And so the hole was small at the bottom, and then the hole just kept getting bigger and bigger as it grew. Seriously, the most nasty. I hated it. Right, so this is my root system, and these ones up here are definitely going to act as more of insurance for it, which is great. So I do want to make sure it's submerged under the substrate. When I have a long root like this, I usually wrap it around like a little circle, and I just wrap and wrap and wrap, and then I stick it at the bottom like that. Okay, so I think I can answer maybe 2 more questions. I don't want to answer too many because I do want to save a lot of them for when I film with Lauren. How do you acclimatize large climbers? Do you put them on poles right away? I'm trying to think the last time I would have gotten a huge climber. I tend to chop. So that was another question, is like, is it bad to chop and import right away? And I chop all the time. Just depending on the scenario, I sort of assess, you know, what everything is looking like. But if I had a really, really tall plant, oh sorry, so blurry. If I had a really tall climbing plant, I probably would chop it if, like, you know, the stem was really long or the bottom leaves were all really small. Just because it's harder, it's a lot harder to acclimatize really large plants if you don't have the space. Like, I do have a tent, but it's like the smallest size that Mars Hydro makes. And the reason I chose that is because I don't have a ton of space in my plant room to have a large tent. I would love a large tent, but I just can't house it. So yeah, for a tall climbing plant, I would likely chop down a lot of the stem and just try and focus on that top part. And getting it onto a pole is going to really help a lot. I would just make sure to either use like a strap, like a lazy strap, or like saran wrap to like enclose the top node so that you can get some roots along the stem. But yeah, don't be afraid to chop your imports when you get them. Honestly, like the rule of thumb is like if you can get your climbers on a pole, do it. No matter how juvenile you think the plant is or whatever, like to me, it's never too early to get a plant on a pole. So I would recommend that if possible. This one actually fit in here quite nicely. I wish I could water it so that there was a little bit of weight to this pot, but because it's been recently chopped, I'm gonna let things sort of callus up a little bit. And then it's so messy here. I have moss all in my hair. I've been editing a lot of videos lately, and like at home, I usually batch film. It's very rare that I will film only one video in one day. I just feel like if I'm gonna take the time to put makeup on and get ready, might as well get at least 2 videos out of the way. So I'll usually film 1 video, and then the next video I'll have like moss in my hair and I just look so disheveled. What do you do when the plant is too big for a prop box or plastic bag for high humidity? You're not gonna like the answer to this, but I just stick it in my plant room. It sucks because obviously not everyone has a plant room, but the reason why I feel somewhat okay doing that is because it's so warm in there. And if you can, like maybe stick a humidifier right next to it for like the first maybe 2 or 3 weeks. It's obviously not ideal if you need to put a certain plant into a high humidity, you know, situation, just depending on what the plant is, but not everybody has the luxury of, you know, the space in terms of acclimatizing large specimens. I would just recommend sticking it in like, I guess the warmest place as possible and putting it by a humidifier. And if you can even just like, what you can do is, let's say this was like 10 times bigger and I couldn't fit it into like a box or whatever. So what I've done in the past is stuck like a large bamboo stick in the vessel, and then I just put a plastic bag over it. So it's not completely enclosed, but it like sits on top of that bamboo stake, and it just kind of acts as like an umbrella over it. And it's helped in terms of maintaining that humidity. Sometimes you just have to get really creative if that means, you know, cutting open a garbage bag or, you know, using some kind of like tarp. You can go to Home Depot and get like those big plastic drop cloths like for painting and stuff. Otherwise, if you aren't able to acclimatize large specimens, honestly, I would opt for just buying small ones because it's so much easier to acclimatize them, especially if you know you don't have the space. It's like, I know the temptation to get large plants is so, it's hard, you know, especially when the price is so good. Trust me, I'm a big plant girl. If I can get the bigger, the better sometimes. But if you know off the bat that you're not gonna have space to acclimatize a large plant, don't even put yourself through that stress, because the experience you're gonna have is that high, basically, of having like that large plant off the bat. That's gonna wear off fast. And then you're gonna be left with the next few weeks of watching your plant decline, and you will forget all about that high. So go smaller if you can. All right, I think those are all the questions I'm gonna answer for now. Just because I wanna do it with lore. And yeah, anyway, so this one is potted. She's ready to go. I'm just trying to like plow through these because I feel like I've done nothing all day and I'm almost ready to go. Okay, let's do this. Whoa, peltigerum. And I'm hoping these root pretty quickly because they're such large plants with essentially no root system, so that does make me a little bit nervous. I'm nervous to see what those patty roots look like. Oh my gosh, this thing is gonna topple right over. It's so heavy. I think this one's gonna need a bamboo stake or something. It is still toppling over. Okay, Pelty's done. Everyone say a prayer for this guy. And I'm not gonna be repotting the chunks on camera just because that's literally just me sticking it into a pot. But we gotta get this patty open. Oh my gosh. I have never seen this before. This is one plant. That's insane. It's all growing from this chunk. Look at, it's all connected. I thought that Gilberto just put them all in one plastic bag. Okay, well this one separated itself. So we've got one little one here. I'm just going to chop all of these from the chunk. That's insane that this one little chunk produced 3 such large plants, and they're growing like from the same, I don't even understand how this, what in the tissue culture? Okay, so let's just do this one by one. So we've got this guy here. Oh, it's so nice once they're separated and you can really just enjoy each plant. Oh, you are a runaway. There's this one. This is the biggest one, I think. And then this guy. Not bad. The roots are not great. Honestly, I think these ones have to go straight into water. Like this one has no roots. So something like this, I would not, for me personally, I would not pot this up in anything besides perlite. If not, this is when I would opt to water root just to get things started. She actually has a few patriciae already rooting in water. So I'm just gonna add this to those because we've got nothing here. I feel like if I stuck this in soil, it would not do anything. Also not potting this because again, no roots on it. Good size though. I can't wait till my leaves even get relatively that large. This is the size, not even this big. This is the size that my patty was when I first imported it, and I was so underwhelmed. Like the juvenile leaf, I'm like, is this even the right plant? And I paid $3.50 USD for it, you guys. There are a few regrets I have in life. I think that might be one of them. I mean, I do enjoy my patty, but you know, it's been a slow freaking burn. It's like, it does not size up very fast for me, and it's just, she's just tooting along, but you know, at least we're getting somewhere. Just not very quickly. Okay, I don't want to hit you, but I'm gonna chop off some of these dead and crispy roots. Honestly, I feel like all of these should go into water. Even though this one does have some aerial roots, I'm just not feeling great about how quickly it's gonna root because it's so barky. I'm gonna go show Lauren, but my guess is she's gonna say to stick it in water. Okay guys, we've reached the end here. That was way longer than I intended this video to be. I'm very sorry. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna sprinkle in some short videos for you guys here and there. No, sorry. If you like short videos, just unsubscribe to me now. It's just not gonna happen. I can't do it. I just can't do it. But I hope you guys enjoyed kind of getting a sneak peek at what it's like on an import day. Imagine what I just did times like 50. Like there is no way. I have so much respect for Lauren because I could not do what she does. It does take a lot of time and effort and dedication to do this. I don't think that you could own a plant shop, honestly, if you didn't love what you do. So just hats off to that lady because she makes it happen for us. And yeah. It's a lot of work. So anywho, if you guys like videos like this, let me know. You know, Lauren's the nature of her business. She's always importing, so I'm happy to just like trek on over here and do this for you guys if it's something you enjoy. Hopefully me and Lauren can film our Q&A together sometime soon. It's crazy, so that might not happen honestly until I'm back from California. But anyway, thank you so much for watching another video. Thank you for being here. Please don't forget to give Lauren a follow. She is on YouTube. You can subscribe to her at North Shore Tropicals. She's also on Instagram. I will link her website. She does ship to she ships across Canada and across the States. She does not ship internationally outside of North America, basically. So sorry about that, but always keep an eye out on her website. She does like random restocks. She usually announces it first on her Instagram. So if you've been looking for something that you saw here, make sure that you follow her on Instagram, because that's where you're gonna find out first about when she's gonna restock. Anyway, thank you guys so much. I appreciate you. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up if you liked it, because it helps us a lot on YouTube, and I will see you in the next one.